terrorism, and particularly terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir over the last 30 years. Prime Minister underscored to President Trump that 42,000 lives have been lost to terror attacks in the last 30 years, and that it is incumbent on the international community to join together to fight this scourge of terrorism. Prime Minister also mentioned to President Trump that that globally, from a number of developed countries as well, there have been significant numbers of fighters who have, or what they call foreign fighters, which have participated in terrorist activities globally. And he pointed to the fact that although we have the largest, or probably the second largest population of citizens of the Muslim faith in India, there has been a significantly lower level of participation and a lower level of radicalization in India than there has been in almost any other part of the world. And this is an important fact that ought to be recognized by the international community, and President Trump acknowledged and took note of this fact. Prime Minister also explained that we have never shied away from talking to Pakistan. However, we expect that overtures that Prime Minister has made over the years ought to have been reciprocated, and none of them have been reciprocated, beginning with Prime Minister's invitation at the oath-taking ceremony, and then, as Prime Minister said, his unique and trip to Lahore in December 2015 with minimum security. And Prime Minister explained to President Trump that immediately after that, there has been an attack on the Pathankot airbase, and that the perpetrators of the crime have not been called to justice. So there was a discussion on the impact that terrorism has on communities, has globally, and Prime Minister and President Trump felt that we must both come together to fight terrorism. So essentially these were the two broad topics discussed. It was a brief meeting because time is constrained on all sides. The UN is a forum where all world leaders are meeting other world leaders, and the Prime Minister and President Trump had to attend the Secretary General's lunch immediately after. So it was a meeting of about half an hour or 40 minutes. And we believe that we are quite satisfied with the outcome of this meeting. We are optimistic that on the trade front we will see significant progress soon. We believe that we have given a good understanding to the US side about the challenges that we face on account of terrorism in India, including in Jammu and Kashmir. And the meeting ended with Prime Minister's reminder to President Trump that we would be looking forward to welcoming him in India whenever he and his family decide to come. So that was the gist of the meeting. Before I take questions, I also thought I would mention that after the lunch by the UN Secretary General, the first of the two plurilaterals will be taking place. That is the meeting between the Prime Minister of India and the heads of state and government of the Pacific small island states, which for us is important because these have been countries which are vulnerable, with which we have been doing a lot in terms of development assistance, and which now play a critical role in our Indo-Pacific outlook or Indo-Pacific vision. Following that, of course, the Prime Minister will be holding the event to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Gandhiji at the UN, in the presence of a number of world leaders, including the President of South Korea, the Prime Ministers of Singapore, Bangladesh, New Zealand, and Jamaica, and the Secretary General himself. He will, by remote inauguration, open the Gandhi Garden at the New York University, or the State University of New York, and a stamp. And then he will end the day with the accepting the award being given by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So that's the rest of the program for today.
Thank you very much, sir. We have time for a few questions. Yes, please.
What specifically, Sriram Lakshman from The Hindu, what specifically derailed the trade deal for now? Was it ICT products? That's what we heard, and medical devices. And what does this mean for Mr. Goyal's trip? Is he going back? And can we have a timeline on when the next round of discussions will be undertaken?
We'll take it 2-3 questions at a time. Deepak ji. Michael ji.
राष्ट्रपति जी ने बात करते हुए ये कहा कि इमरान खान और प्रधानमंत्री जी दोनों मामलों को हैंडल कर सकते हैं. क्या उनका इंडिकेशन था कि भारत और पाकिस्तान को बातचीत की टेबल पे आ जाना चाहिए?
One more question before we move to the next round. जी.
This is Siddharth from the Times of India. I just wanted to understand what is our expectation from the US in terms of what we want on the trade front. Do we want restoration of GSP? Do we want doing away with of some of the higher tariffs on aluminium and steel products?
Is it trade related? Then perhaps we can bunch it together. On trade? No, only on trade. I mean, then FS can answer all. Then I think we will do it separately. Yes.
So, Lakshman, I would think that the characterization that you used, the word you used, is the trade deal derailed. I think that is completely, if you pardon me, off the tracks. I think that is perhaps a completely wrong interpretation that you can put on this exercise. In fact, I would say there is significant progress. These are issues which are complex. These are issues involving industry on both sides, domestic industry on both sides. It involves jobs on both sides. Reconciling the gives and takes requires a certain amount of discussion and a certain amount of balance. We have made significant progress in that regard, and we are quite confident that we will make further progress in the future. Indeed, at the meeting, both Trade Representative Lighthizer and Commerce and Industry Minister Goyal expressed satisfaction with the discussions, and both of them said that the other was sincere in moving this forward. So I would certainly think that the discussions that have taken place in New York over the last 2 weeks are precisely the opposite of what you have described it as. So far as our expectations on the trade front are concerned, Siddharth, obviously it is not possible for me to go into the details, nor is it appropriate at this stage to go into it when these are on the table for discussion. But my understanding is that we expect it to be a fair and reasonable deal, and we have laid out our requirements in that regard, so has the US side. It is now a matter of negotiating between the two sides on individual issues to ensure that at the end of the day, our requirement of access to the US markets and for Indian companies and exporters to continue to do so, as well as to do so in new products, is secured. And at the same time, we also address some of the US side's concerns regarding what they consider to be a trade deficit. I will not go any further than that. As far as no, Deepak had a question. Now, let me be quite clear. I don't want to interpret remarks that have already been made in the public domain. That's for you as media persons to interpret it. What I am saying is simply that the focus of the discussion this time round was on the impact of terrorism and the fact that it needs to be understood where the origin of that is and how we tackle it jointly. And in that regard, I repeat again, the Prime Minister has made it clear that we are not shying away from talks with Pakistan, but for that to happen, we expect certain concrete steps to be taken, and we do not find any effort by Pakistan in taking those steps.
Uma? उधर पीछे.
गोखले साहब, अपने ओपनिंग रिमार्क में राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने ये कहा कि कश्मीर पे भी बात होगी. कश्मीर पे भारत अपना स्टैंड बार बार क्लियर करता रहा है और अमेरिका भी उसको इंडोर्स करता रहा है, लेकिन जिस तरह से पाकिस्तान आकर कान भरने की कोशिश करता है, क्या कुछ नए सवाल या क्या कुछ नया जानना चाहा ट्रंप ने और क्या कुछ भारत की तरफ से कहा गया?
Thank you. You have a question?
Reena Bharatvarsh from ANI Washington DC Bureau. Just a quick follow-up on the trade timeline. Is there a timeline that you can spell out for us?
Thank you. I'll take the third question. Ji, there.
Raj, Hindustan Times. My question is about President Trump's remarks again. Sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
can you repeat? Yeah. Is it working?
Did I miss something?
No. I mean, we couldn't hear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is again about President Trump's remarks. When he said it's for Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Khan to talk it out, is he giving up on mediating? Did that mediation thing come up at all in the talks?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I know, but we will take it in the next round. Everything is related.
we did not discuss a timeline on trade, and nor am I in a position to give you any timeline on trade. But what I can say is that we are optimistic that we will be able to conclude an understanding or an agreement, whichever way you put it, fairly soon. With regard to the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, I think I've already said what was discussed at the meeting, and I don't want to add anything or embellish it in any way. I think as far as the issue of mediation is concerned, the position of the government of India is very clear. If there are issues to be discussed with Pakistan, these will be discussed bilaterally. So I don't wish to repeat again and again, because this is a position the government has made very clear.
The last round of 3 questions. Ji.
Rohit Vyas, TV Asia. Did the President give any indication to the Prime Minister on the issue of terrorism that he had put some kind of pressure on Imran Khan in his talks yesterday with him to basically eliminate terrorism from Pakistani soil?
Thank you. Saurabh?
Foreign Secretary, the fact that the US President said that the Prime Minister can settle the issue of terrorism himself is also in some ways an indication of India's growing global stature, and the fact that India is well within its right to deal with Pakistan on the issue of terrorism.
Thank you. Ji.
Mr. Gokhale, Mr. Trump said that he thinks Iran is actually on top of the list. That's in, complete opposition of what India thinks. Any reaction to that?
Thank you.
I am not at liberty to disclose what President Trump conveyed regarding his conversations with other world leaders. I don't think it is appropriate for me to say anything in that regard, so I will desist from that. Saurabh, I think India's stature, India's presence regionally and globally is something that is recognized by a number of countries, including the United States. So I presume that the US efforts to engage us and our efforts to engage the United States is in recognition of the fact that both of us have sizable economies, a sizable presence, certainly in our region, and shared values. I mean, it's a given that we have a strong base for Indo-US relations. I'm sorry, I missed your question.
About Iran?
Yes, this was not discussed by the two leaders because of shortage of time. So really, I can't comment any further on this regard.
That's it, sir.